Hey y'all, how y'all doing? So today I'm going to talk to you about books and how I find them and some of my favorite authors. So as I've told y'all before in previous videos, I love books and I love books about books, like where the book is sort of a character itself in the story, or a book is sort of the MacGuffin of the story, such as I think it's called The Book of Magic by Alice Hoffman, or The Physic Book of Deliverance Dane by Catherine Howe, where a special book is integral to the story. Um, and I think I love looking for books as much as I love the books themselves. And here on the island where I live, first of all, I live on an island in the Pacific Northwest. I've been here about 17 years, and I moved. For those of you who don't know me, I previously lived in a very small town in South Carolina. And so the thing about this island is there is a Navy base right here on the island, right over there. And so there are people on this island that are from all over the country and all over the world, and our thrift stores reflect that. So I have very good luck going to the thrift stores and finding books about magic, witchcraft, divination, astrology, but also books uh, that I'm interested in that fall into a couple of categories that I like. For example, number one, I love murder mysteries or mysteries in general. I like to think that I'm a pretty good detective of figuring out who the killer is. I like anything with a supernatural element. Um, for example, the Physic Book of Deliverance Dane, the Witches of Eastwick, the Widows of Eastwick, the Practical Magic series, the Chocolate series by Joanne Harris. I especially love The Girl with No Shadow. That's a really good entry in that series. As far as murder mysteries go, I love M.C. Beaton's Agatha Raisin series. I love Hamish Macbeth. Hamish Macbeth series, they just released one on Valentine's Day, which was, I think, last week, and I got it and I finished it in one day. I also love Agatha Christie. We share the same birthday. I love Poirot, and I also like Miss Marple, but I prefer Poirot over Miss Marple. Um, so the thrift stores, like I said, I go there about once a week. There are two thrift stores here in town, not very far from me. I go and I check them out, and what's really great is, unlike where I came from, now it's been 17 years, it may be different now, but unlike where I came from, they have sections for like metaphysics. Sometimes they call it New Age, whatever, and I can go to those specific sections and look for specific books that in those genres that I like and I can buy. Um, and then there's another thrift store. It's about 30 miles from here, but it's a straight shot. I go right out from my apartment, and it's a straight shot down the old highway. And it's about a 35-minute drive, depending on traffic, which is usually not a lot. And it's just a very pleasant drive. I can listen to music, I can think, I can look at the beautiful view of the Cascade Mountains and whatnot, or the Olympics. Been here 17 years. I don't know what the name of this damn mountain is, but there's a mountain. Uh, and that bookstore, thrift store, is huge. It's 2 stories. I believe it used to be 3 stories before the fire. I remember going down there years ago, and I swear there were 3 stories, but there was a fire. Uh, anyway, the second level, I think probably about a fourth of the second level is all books. And I usually try to get there right when they open. I time leaving my house so I get there right when they open. And there's not a lot of people there, and I can really take my time looking at books. But there are so many books there, it would take me hours to read the title of every book that is there. And so the way I find books is, number one, I go to those specific sections, spiritual, metaphysics, whatever, and I look at those books and I look for titles that jump out at me. The other thing I've learned is, and this is, I'm not picking on people who work in thrift stores or who sort these things, but I'm sure they're very busy. They don't have a lot of time. But I've noticed several times that if I go to the science section, I will often find books on astrology, which is a particular interest of mine, in the science section, mixed in with books on by Neil Tyson, deGrasse Tyson, and other scientists and other scientific and textbooks. I've always found books about, actually, this book right here, The Only Way to Learn Astrology, Volume 2. It's a very old one from the 70s. I found this in the science section at the thrift store. So, and then, for herbs, I noticed if I go to the gardening section, I found a couple of books about magical herbs in the gardening section. The thrift store I go to 30 miles away, it has a section on health. And I've noticed that a lot of times I've gone there, there's been books on reflexology, if you're interested in that. There's books on meditation, there are some books on healthy eating that included herbs and things. So you have to learn to, find these sections and really look for these books. The other thing that I do is, and I'm making this video on my phone so I can't show you, but using the Note app on my phone, I have a list of authors that I like. For example, M.C. Beaton, Agatha Christie, Joanne Harris, Catherine Howe, Justin Gustenus. Justin Gustenus, I really like him because he combines the murder mystery with the occult element. One of his recent books I read had a cop who worked in I believe it was called the Occult Crimes Unit, where there was someone who was pitting supernatural creatures against humans in order to incite a war between humans and supernatural creatures, and it all had to do with sort of Charles Manson and Helter Skelter. He was using that sort of Charles Manson's playbook to try and incite a race war between supernaturals and humans. And it was a really good mystery. Peter Straub I really like. And then I have a list of specific books that I'm looking for. And so what I do is, for example, I've been watching the Mayfair Witches on AMC, and I know it's divided the book community and the witch community and the Anne Rice community. Some people who have not read the books like it, and people who have read the books don't like it, and someone like me who read the book 30 years ago, I can separate the book from the movie and appreciate the show on its own legs. But like I said, I read The Witching Hour 30 years ago in high school, and so I'm waiting, and I wanted to reread the series. And so, but I'm waiting until the season finale, which today is Monday night as I make this video, and the season finale is this coming Sunday. So sometime after Sunday, I'm going to start reading The Witching Hour. But again, I didn't go out and buy that at a bookstore. I didn't buy it on Amazon. I looked for it. It was one of the books. So I found The Witching Hour, the first in the series, and I found, I forget the third in the series. I'm still looking for the second in the series, which I believe is called Lasher. But I have plenty of time to look for it, find it, and if not, if my searching fails, I'll break down and go buy it at my local bookstore or on Amazon. So, but I'll go to like R for Rice. But I've also learned if the bookstore or the thrift shop has a horror section, which some of them do where I live, I'll not only go look under R for Rice and Rice, I'll go look in the horror section. And honestly, I don't know if it's where I live or this is everywhere. Horror section, it's Dean Koontz, Dean Koontz, Dean Koontz, Dean Koontz. People up here must love him or hate him. I don't know what it means that there's so much Dean Koontz on the ball. But eventually, sometimes I'll see an Anne Rice or something or Stephen King in the horror section. The next way that I find books is, now, I don't know if I've ever talked about this, I have a gift for finding lost objects. I've done it several times for people in real life, and I've done it for people online. And it's two ways it works for me. Usually if it's online, someone will say, oh, I lost my grandmother grandmother's wedding ring. I'll just kind of breathe deep. As I breathe out, I sort of empty myself, close my eyes, and I just set my intention to receive the answer. Where is this item? And I'll see a picture in my head, and I tell the person, and 9 times out of 10, they find the item. The information I give them leads them to the item. The other way it works for me is in real life, not online, but like if I'm in my house or someone's house and I'm looking for something, I'll just take a deep breath and empty myself with the intention of finding this item. If I know what it looks like or seen a picture of it, I'll try to see a picture of it or visualize it. And my whole body becomes like an antenna, and I'll feel myself pulled in a direction. I'll give you an example story. Years and years ago, I was friends with a witch in my town. She had probably about 15 of these large bookcases. I'm 6 feet tall. This bookcase right here is a little bit taller than me. And she had like 15 of these in her house. It wasn't the cleanest of houses. It wasn't the most organized house, but there were books everywhere. And I loved going over there looking through her books. But anyway, one time I had found this beautiful gargoyle, and she loved it. And I needed a pentacle for my altar, and she had this beautiful ceramic pentacle that I had seen somewhere in her house at one point, and it got moved around or whatever. And so I brought it up and said, "Hey, if you want this gargoyle, I'd be happy to trade it to you for this pentacle." And she's like, "Well, I haven't seen it, but if you can find it, you got a deal." So I'm like, "Okay, be quiet." Oh, and she had animals everywhere: dogs, cats, snakes, birds. I'm not talking about sheep. I'm talking about African greys and stuff everywhere. So which were distracting. But anyway, I did my little thing where I just sort of slowly walked through the house and allowed myself to be guided. And suddenly I stopped, like the deer in the headlights, kind of stopped. And without even looking, I reached my left hand over and I put my hand on it. And it was sort of on a bookcase, kind of like this. And it was sitting like on top of some books on a bookcase. And all I saw was like a little bit of it was painted brown right there. And I put my hand right on it and I found it. So when I'm looking for books, that's basically what I do. I'll just empty myself and allow myself to be guided to a book and find them. So I had an idea what I wanted to say, and I'm getting out of track. So I will show you this one before I show you the other one. So I was at the thrift store probably 2 weeks ago, and I did what I told you. I just sort of let myself go empty and allow myself to be guided, and I felt myself pulled in a certain direction, and I went over and I saw this stack of books, and sort of like this book right here, this red just really jumped. Notice how this color of red is a different shade than all these other reds. It really jumped out at me, and I reached out my hand to pull it, and it was this right here. It was The Voodoo Queen by Robert Tallant, and it's all about Marie Laveau. So this is in my to read pile. Another thing I look for is when I'm scanning the stacks is I look at titles. So something that suggests a murder mystery or something that suggests a supernatural element. And the book I pulled as an example for you guys is, so I was at the thrift store. I think it was the same time I bought this book here. I think I bought this book at the same time. The title of the book was Demons by Bill Pronzini. And so I saw this and I thought, oh, demons. Maybe it's a book about demons. So I'm going to read what it says to you here. Victor Runyon lived high on a posh wooded hill, but the torch he carried for a woman named Nedra Merchant was bringing Runyon down. The nameless detective was working for Runyon's wife, looking for Nedra Merchant and finding only a collection of obsessed former lovers, including a politician, a lawyer, and a psychopath. You could add another name to the lovelorn because as he searched for Nedra and played a deadly game with a mysterious phone caller, the San Francisco PI was suddenly feeling jilted too. And when his own broken love life collided with the shocking discovery of Nedra's whereabouts, Nameless would have to fight his way back home again through a blaze of sexual obsession in the company of the kind of demons who live in the nicest home and on the highest hills in town. So, while this doesn't appear to have a supernatural element. It's more about personal demons. It is a mystery, but I was still kind of on the fence. Should I buy this? Should I not? So what do I do then? Is I simply ask the book itself, should I buy this book? And you'll notice I have a bookmark here because I'm going to show you exactly what I did. So you've heard of bibliomancy. That's where you take a book, usually the Bible. I think another word is also stitchomancy. I might have said that wrong. But you basically think of a question, open the book at random, and without looking, you put your finger down on a page, and whatever words or paragraph or what have you lands on, that's your answer. So I asked the book, should I buy this book? And I opened this book at random, and I shit you guys not, the very first words I saw were Dean Purchase. Now, obviously, if you screenshotted that or read it really quick, that is the name of a character in this book, but my name is Dean, and it said Dean Purchase, so I took that as a I took that as an answer that I should read this. So there's probably something of value in this book that I meant to buy, and so I bought this book. Now, sometimes I'll be drawn to a book that doesn't fit any of these categories I talked to you before. It's not a murder mystery. It doesn't really have any type of supernatural element. And it's also, I forgot to tell you, sometimes I look for, I guess what you'd call self-help. Some books, like anything on the law of attraction, or using the power of the mind to improve your life, and affirmations. For example, I have a book called, and I recently lent it out to a coworker, called Write It Down, Make It Happen, and it's all about writing your problems down and ways to script and manifest things by writing them down. And I did a series of videos using that book, probably a year or so ago. There's something in there. Another book I really like is called The Amazing Laws of Cosmic Mind Power, and I also have a book by Reverend Ike. So that type of stuff I really like too. But sometimes I am drawn to a book that doesn't fit any of these categories, and The Necklace was one such book. I was really drawn to this book, and it says, it's The Necklace, 13 Women and the Experiment That Transformed Their Lives. And I was going to talk about this book a little bit, but I'm at about 20 minutes, and one of my shows is coming on in 10 minutes, so I'm going to talk about this book in my next video, because it deserves its own video, and that'll give you guys some time to look it up if you're interested. So that is how I, the Book Whisperer, find books to read and enjoy. And I often like when they add value to my life. Anyway, I'd love to hear from you. What are you reading right now? What books do you recommend? How do you find books to read? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll see you guys next time. Good night.